and welcome. You are listening to At Home with Ifeno. Here, we'll talk about helping women know and understand their worth, find fulfillment in who they are, and in what they do. Every other week, we'll talk about your identity as a woman, discovering your unique purpose, intentionally raising the next generation, and your influence in homemaking. I am your host, Ifoma Nneka Omoni. Hello, and welcome to At Home with Ifeno. Wow, I'm so excited. Yes, it's a new month. Yes, I know the month has already started rolling and the days are counting, and I believe you are making good use of your time. You remember our last episode had to do with capital, that we have capital, and that capital is called time. I hope you are using your capital wisely. You are investing it properly, because it will bring you yields in the days and the years ahead as you use it wisely. So I just want to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are joining us all over the world. How are you doing today? Wow. It's a great day with wonderful expectations and promises, and I'm so excited about today. So what is making me extra excited about today is that At Home with Ifeno is 3. Yes. This month of September, At Home with Ifeno celebrates its anniversary. And on this episode, I want to be celebrating At Home with Ifeno podcast with you, my listeners. That's why I'm so excited. It has really been an interesting journey with ups and downs. Which life or which path is not with, the challenges and the victories? So we have the mixture of both. But today, we just want to say thank you and thank God. We want to appreciate God and all my listeners for the years we have been together. So At Home with Ifeno is 3, celebrating our 3rd anniversary in this month of September. And today's episode is going to be dedicated to that celebration. But before I go into how we are going to be celebrating At Home with Ifeno podcast, I want to ask how you are doing. Yes, I said it earlier, but I hope you are doing well, your family, your business, whatever it is you are engaged in. I hope things are taking shape. And I say, welcome once again to today's episode. Today, I have tagged this episode, this anniversary episode, as Listen Back, Look Forward, as we celebrate 3 years of At Home with Ifeno podcast. So we're going to be trying to listen back to, some of the episodes and then projecting for the years ahead. So the first thing I would like to do on today's episode is to thank God Almighty. Yes, I want to thank God. You know why? He was the one that sent me on this assignment, and without him, I will not be here today. Without him, I don't think there will be At Home with Ifeno, because he is the one that puts it in my heart. He is the one that prepared me. My journey to podcasting is an interesting one, because I never knew that one day I will be podcasting and I will be sharing with people. So first, thanks is to God Almighty for keeping me and the platform still alive and running. The second thing I would like to do on this anniversary episode of At Home with Ifeno is to thank my immediate family. Yes, At Home with Ifeno is centered on the family, and I cannot do anything better than appreciating my immediate family. I want to start by thanking my spouse. Yes, I thank him. I appreciate his encouragement. You know, he's a silent listener. It will look as if he's not listening, but he's listening. And sometimes he just keeps quiet, but I know that his body language is showing me that he's cheering me on, supporting me, you know. And then my children, oh no. Wow, as I was about coming on for this episode, I just wondered, and a thought dropped in my heart, and I said, if my son is not around for the next couple of months, what am I going to do? Because I won't say I've become lazy, but he has been a very strong support system to At Home with Ifeno. My son and my daughter, they keep cheering me on, helping me to set up, sending mails to my guests, you know, helping me to do so many things, to upload the episode before it comes, and so many things. So I want to say thank you to my wonderful family, my immediate family, and then my extended family too. My parents, my siblings, my friends, and all those who keep encouraging me to continue with this work and assignment. I say thank you. I can't even say that I can do everything on my own. And so I want to say thank you to my very strong support system behind the scene. And I'm referring to my graphics designer, my podcast editor. I don't know if they will listen to this, but I will also say thank you to them. For the last 3 years, they have faithfully supported me, making sure that At Home with Ifeno comes out on time with the beautiful artwork and everything, removing the glitches and wherever is not so, you know, presentable to our listeners. And I just want to say thank you. If I start thanking everyone here on the show today, we will not leave here. But I just want to wrap up my thanks by saying thank you to my amazing listeners. Thank you so much. What would it look like to, you know, send episodes of different topics and there's nobody listening? Wow. It would, I don't even know, I can't even imagine how it would be, you know. So you're listening, and those of you that send feedbacks, give me feedbacks, have been really encouraging. I don't think I would have still been here if nobody was listening. So this is just to say that you are very important. You mean so much to me, and I don't want to take you for granted. So I say thank you to my amazing listeners. Now, At Home with Ifeno. At Home with Ifeno started 3 years ago with the target audience of women, wives, mothers, you know, and particularly homemakers. That was how, you know, I started. And maybe I would say I was inspired to start that way because that is where I am today, even though I am evolving into other things. So that was how At Home with Ifeno started, with that target audience. And the vision or the mission was to help women find their identity and then find fulfillment in whatever they do and intentionally raise positive role models in their children. Our focus in the last 3 years has been on personal growth for the women, relationships, which has to do with friendships, you know, in whatever they do, motherhood, marriage, parenting, and home management. This has been our focus for the last 3 years. Interestingly, in the last 3 years, we've also had not just female guests. When I have guests, I've had male guests that have come to talk about parenting, guests that have come to talk about even marriage, on the platform, male guests. So At Home with Ifeno is not just gender focused on one particular gender. Yes, it's targeted to the women, to the wives and mothers, but in the last 3 years, we've shown that we can't build our homes without our men, our husbands, our spouses, and we are evolving. So I'll let us know more about that before the show ends. So this is where At Home with Ifeno has been in the last 3 years. Now, to listen back to previous episodes in the last 3 years, I took note of some of the episodes that had more people downloading those episodes and more people, listening to particular episodes. And I'll just summarize what the particular episodes, that many people tilted more to, what it was all about. The first episode that we had, a very high number of downloads, was the very first one, and it was tagged, Welcome Home, which is episode 1. I think that is not strange because that's the introduction of what the podcast is all about. So I think many people would have to download that, click on that to know what the podcast is all about. I'll summarize episode 1, which was tagged Welcome Home. That episode talked about the home being very important and foundational to our existence here on earth. It talked about the difference, between a house and a home. It talked about what an ideal home should be built with, and the people that comprise that ideal home. Now we have an agenda that is being pushed about the male and the female. And At Home with Ifeno is a platform that does whatever we do based on God's original design, the way He created the male, the way He created the female. So an ideal home is where a man and a woman, are brought together, they get married, and they begin a family unit. That episode talked about that. We also saw that the home is a grooming facility focusing on building the character and life skill of the individuals that live in that home. We saw the home as the first school, of life. And one of the quotes which I really, really love about the home, that was even given by Mother Teresa, said that if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. So that's a summary of the very first episode, which many people downloaded and listened to, episode 1. The second episode that a lot of people also tilted to and listened to was the one that was tagged The Best Job I Ever Had, episode 2, The Best Job I Ever Had. And in that episode, I made my listeners know that homemaking is not just about doing the chores at home. It's something that has to do with creating an atmosphere beyond the duties and the responsibilities that we have to do physically. And I also shared that homemaking is a job, is a full-time job, and is a career, and there are pros and cons to every job or career. The same thing goes with homemaking. On this episode, I shared that there are professional skills even in homemaking. There's a sense of professionalism in homemaking. It is not just the mundane things, that makes a successful homemaker. This episode also inspired me to write my very first book that is titled The Home CEO: 7 Keys to Finding Fulfillment as a Homemaker. On this episode, I shared those skills that are very important to ensure a successful running of the home, I also brought into paradigm how the home can be seen beyond what we see as mundane and routine, and that if all these things are not put in place, it will be a place of confusion and chaos. I also encouraged my listeners on this episode that the journey of homemaking should be enjoyed, and that it is a career that brings immeasurable rewards that will bring about a form of fulfillment when we put our hearts to it. So that was the second episode of this platform, the best job I ever had. Another episode that many people really got interested in and downloaded had to do with parenting. And the title is Are You Sleeping on Duty? Sex Education and Parenting. That episode is episode 20. Like I'm saying now, you could go back and listen to these episodes and see what's really made people download these episodes, that we had a lot of downloads on them, and I'm sure that they will still give valuable lessons to whoever comes to those episodes. Beyond those episodes, all the other episodes have been very insightful and a learning curve for as many as come in touch with it, and you can always go back to them. That's the good thing about this platform and the platforms that our podcast is being aired through. So on this particular episode about sex education and parenting, I had a guest on the show, and it was a wonderful time hearing from a professional teacher and a coach. She's a girls coach, Irene Bangwell. She did a lot of justice to that topic. She talked about root factors of parental failures. She talked about sex education not being the same as intercourse as many people would think it is all about. She talked about how fathers need to get involved in this role of teaching and mentoring children in the area of sex, and that in teaching children on sex education, it is about helping children to navigate their emotions as they grow and change in their physical bodies, helping them, both genders, whether female or male, to face the challenges that will come and to teach them how to respond appropriately to the challenges that come with growing up, emotionally, physically, mentally, and in all ways. And our guest also talked about how creating a safe home is very key to making sure that our children are not abused, to making sure that our children can open up to us. There are so many lessons, so many gems and nuggets that you will get on that episode. But one thing I took was parents need to create that safe environment. The safe environment is not just about the physical space, but bringing the home in a way that your children will be vulnerable to share with you. They will not be afraid, and that when things are happening, you will be present to know what is happening to your children, the kind of friends they have, and even your staff or those back at home that might be living with you, to make sure that they have the appropriate sex education in order to create that safe space for our children to thrive. So that was the third episode that has really gained a lot of listenership. Another episode that is also key to parenting is the episode tagged Home Training. Your children shouldn't leave home without it. Yeah, that episode is episode 30. Very fundamental, in raising the next generation. On this episode, I had Mrs. Ruth Atabo. She was really amazing on this episode. This is a woman that has two grown adult children, and she brought her experience to bear and gave highlights of why the home training that we give to our children is foundational to every other aspect of life. No matter what the children learn in school or wherever, the foundation of their learning, of their developing, starts from home. And she told us that this responsibility lies primarily on parents. Yes, other people will play their parts, like caregivers, like teachers, but the sole responsibility falls on the parents, the father and the mother of these children. She also shared how values and identity are key in home training our children. And in summary, she said we should always see God as the source of wisdom that we need to train our children in the way they should go, knowing fully well the distractions and all that are going on in our world. So that was another episode that really drove a lot of listenership, people listening to it over and over again. And the last episode I will just share, there are other episodes, but I just want to highlight about 5 of them and then go on to other things for this episode. And the last episode I will talk about that really also attracted a lot of listenership was episode 46, and that was tagged Intimacy in Marriage. Intimacy in Marriage. This was taken by a guest also with me. We had this conversation and it was really, really, liberating. It was enlightening what intimacy is, that intimacy is beyond sex, even though sex is part of it, but intimacy is about accepting your spouse and being one with your spouse despite our differences. That we should not make our marriages, transactional. It should not be a relationship where you are doing things because, you are going to get a particular thing from your partner. No, that will not help our intimacy. Intimacy should be infused, into our homes, our marriage, and there is a lot of things that can make it really, really creative and spark the fire in our union. So these are episodes that many people really went into listening, and I want to encourage you, like the topic says, listen back. One thing about listening or going back to something that you have learned from or heard about in the past is that there's power in repetition. When you go back to something you think you have heard before, you will find out that you tend to know more about what you listened to before. You tend to take note of things you might not have taken note of initially. So I want to encourage every listener listening today to go back to our past episodes, even beyond what I have mentioned, the episodes I've mentioned, every other episode that we have had on this platform is one that you would definitely learn. Even if it's just one lesson, there will always be something to learn. I believe that going back to it would really, really help us. It will remind us of some things we might have left out, and also spur us, not to give up on our homes, not to give up on our marriages, and not to give up on our children. So that is what we are looking at today. We are listening back and then looking forward. So yes, At Home with Ifeno is 3 years, and we are not going to end it here. We haven't gotten that instruction from the one who sent us on this assignment. In looking at the last 3 years, I want to say that, one, it has been a journey of learning. Yes, coming on the platform has made me do a lot of research, a lot of reading, studying, relearning, and learning. it has also been a journey of not despising little beginnings. I remember when I started the podcast 3 years ago, I didn't have some of the tools I am using today. And I know that I haven't gotten to the ultimate yet. But one thing I learned from starting from where I was at that time is that if I didn't start with what I had as at that time, giving excuses, waiting to have everything set, I don't think I would have been, I would have gone this far on this journey. So At Home with Ifeno in the last 3 years has taught me not to despise little beginnings. Do you know that the world, that we live in today was created by what I call the seed principle? Yes, the seed principle. So in summary, the seed principle is that you plant a seed today, you water it daily, you tend it, you weed it, continuously, you continue to do what you need to do for that seed to grow, and you give it time. You give it time to grow, and then it multiplies. That is the seed principle in summary. At Home with Ifeno podcast has been on this same journey. 3 years ago, that seed was planted, and we have been watering it since that time we started 3 years ago by watering it. Watering it has been like when we have the episodes we have, putting the efforts, despite, the little setbacks and challenges we have at the back end, we still push and push and push. And it's growing. That is why we are 3 today. And I believe it's going to multiply. How it would, multiply beyond what I am seeing today, I really don't know. But I can say that it's on a journey. I believe that At Home with Ifeno is here to preserve posterity. I'll say that again. I believe that this platform, At Home with Ifeno podcast, is here to preserve posterity, to preserve the future through the family sphere, by following the blueprint of the one who instituted marriage and the family, and that person is God. Yes, that is why At Home with Ifeno is in existence today. I have also learned through this platform and the podcast that you never know what you have inside you until you start. So I will say that because within the last 3 years, the podcast has also inspired me to write and launch my first book, which was published last year. The title of that book is The Home CEO: 7 Keys to Finding Fulfillment as a Homemaker. I honestly didn't know that I could put a book together. I know that before now, I have had some friends and those close to me talk about when I write or send messages. Maybe I send them birthday messages or I just write something. And some people will say, don't you think you can write? Sometimes the words you put together are very inspiring. I'll say, I will push it. Sometimes I will say even things that, will encourage people that I know that, yes, have that gift of writing, and I will be pushing them to it. But I never knew that I will write a book one day. And I want to say that it hasn't ended with that book. I trust God for the days ahead that more books are going to come out, from me as I play my role and do my part. So the podcast has really taught me a lot of things. So I was able to launch that book, publish that book, and I want to say that you can get the book through the links that will be dropped in the description, box of this channel, either YouTube or my social media handles. You can get the link that will lead you on how you could get copies of that book. Is there any journey or paths without challenges? Like I said earlier, no. That is also part of At Home with Ifeno's story. One of the very common challenge, that I have faced in the last 3 years it has to do with, you plan and plan and plan, you get ready, you get all your tools ready, and then, in the middle of having a wonderful conversation with a group, your network just disappoints or something happens. So those are the uncertainties. Even when you have multiple internet platforms, you just find out that day things don't just seem, to connect well. And I have had to, record some episodes over and over again because the connectivity wasn't good, either from my end or from my guest end. That is one thing that I have faced in the last 3 years. Apart from that, another challenge I could say that has been part of my journey is working tirelessly to make sure that our episodes come on time. Yes, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of effort, knowing fully well that the podcast is not the only thing I do. I have other assignments at the home front, which are also very important, that must not suffer. So the discipline to keep at it, sometimes I have to even push myself to get episodes ready ahead of months before that time comes. That is what it takes, and it has been an interesting one. Like I said, you never know what you can do until you start and you try. So there is usually a stretch at times. There have been times when I'm even down with a serious cold that will affect my voice, and I know that recording an episode with that kind of voice would not really do well. So I now have to wait to get, nurse myself back to health and, a clear voice for me to have the recordings. These are just a few, I can share concerning the challenges. But to be very sincere, I just want to celebrate also the accomplishments. The accomplishments have been great. Like I said, a book has come out in the last 3 years, and I've had powerful partnerships with my guests. How my guests just agreed to come on the show without anything given to them. They have been so supportive. Powerful partnerships have been instrumental, and it just teaches me a lesson that you can't do life alone. You have to have a community. You have to have people, that can support you. Foundationally, I also want to say that my family, like I said earlier on in thanking my spouse and my children, they have really helped in getting me this far. Without them, I don't think I will be here today, be consistent in keeping to my promises of releasing an episode every other week. I have also seen that because I can't do everything on my own, I have a wonderful back-end team, editor, graphics, my children, and then I want to say my amazing listeners. Like I said, my listeners have been very, very encouraging, and I've also gotten feedbacks on how I could improve, on the things I could do. Yes, having it at the back of my mind that despite all the suggestions, I should not forget my why, the reason why I started, and what is, the goal, what is the mission, and why we started At Home with Ifeno. So I just want to say thank you. What would I have done without everybody that has been there? Now, looking ahead concerning At Home with Ifeno, the target audience of At Home with Ifeno is going to be evolving. Yes, it's going to be evolving, and it's going to shift from just being a podcast for women, for wives, and homemakers. Now, our target audience is going to be a broader one. We're going to be speaking to the singles, talking about getting married for both male and female. We're going to be talking about the married life, how the husband and the wife, the way God has created the male and the female. Yes, I'm putting that clause there because of the things that are happening in our world today. And to also inspire our parenting skills and the things that we do as parents so that we will not find it so difficult on the journey. So At Home with Ifeno is evolving. It's still centered on the home and the family, but now we are going to be having a broad spectrum, which would allow us to have a variety of engaging content that is not just restricted to just females, but also includes our males as well. Because like I said at the beginning, we need both husband and wife, we need both male and female to build strong and harmonious families and homes. And this begins from singlehood. So that's why At Home with Ifeno is expanding our coverage. We want to see how we can start grooming the young ones, the single ones that are also ready, to get into the family sphere, to know what it takes to go into it, so that they will not be so overwhelmed and surprised when they come into that stage of their lives. So it is evolving into a podcast that will be a compass. It will be a podcast that will be your compass, guiding all our listeners through the intricate journey of building a home. Whether you are a single preparing to share your life with another single person, whether you are a couple cultivating a shared dream in marriage, or you are parents tending to the garden of cultivating and keeping the hearts of your children. I believe, and we at home, and we that are at home with Ifeno, we believe that the home is the cornerstone of a flourishing society. I am truly, truly, truly excited about the future of At Home with Ifeno. Why, you might ask? Because I see it as a platform for discipleship and mentorship in the family matters. Yes, At Home with Ifeno is a platform to disciple and to mentor people, to mentor our listeners, to empower them to have what it takes to build strong relationships in marriage and to raise positive role models in the children that will come from them, so that we can leave a legacy that the world will be grateful for. Wow, it has been a journey. But in closing, I just want to say, to support At Home with Ifeno podcast, I want to ask that you please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our page, and like even the episodes that you listen to. Leave a comment or a review so that we know what you are learning from the episodes you listen to, and share our podcast. Share it widely to your friends, your loved ones, and your contacts. You never know who you will be saving. You never know who you will be restoring back by sharing our podcast. And I say cheers to wonderful and impactful years ahead. Yeah. Thank you so much, all my listeners. I just want to say thank you. I am really grateful, and I look forward to a wonderful time with you as At Home with Ifeno forges ahead for the years ahead. In closing, I would like to share one of my favorite quotes by Mother Teresa. I started with it and I want to end with this quote. If you want to change the world, go home and love your family. If you want to change the world, go home and love your family. It all begins from home. Thanks for joining us this week on At Home with Ifeno. Check us out on Instagram at Ifeno17. As always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. See you next in 2 weeks' time.